What's up, guys? I'm doing another video on this Under the Mayo guy. He's the same guy who did that other video that I did a review on, right? Halo ruined first-person shooters, aka this is my opinion on Halo, but it ruined first-person shooters for me. So here I go, I guess. I've already watched this video through before, and I've been thinking of what to do with it, so just to do a video. It's pretty stupid.
So my Cyberpunk video did okay.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe I should do another one.
Really? Why?
Well, you know, traffic, YouTube.
I thought you didn't want to do that.
Well, I don't want to be that channel. I'd rather talk about something I'm interested in. And don't get me wrong, I was interested in playing Cyberpunk and doing a video on it, but I don't really have that much more to say about it.
Sounds like a real dilemma.
Yeah. So, what do you think I should do?
Why don't you just talk about Prey again?
So, instantly saying that he's just a complex intro that takes up a minute of the viewer's time just to say, hey, I'm going to be reviewing Prey and Cyberpunk. So that's a minus there, just a complex intro just to say, I'm doing this review as money.
Welcome to an
cringy, stupid intro with him dancing. Like, not gonna lie, it's better than what I could do, even with this decent editing software, not just a screen recorder from my phone. But still, that intro was pretty bad, with the dancing and shit from his friend, or whoever the fuck that was. Also, his logo and then his actual, like, channel avatar is pretty different and pretty odd, which is stupid. I don't know, hey, he wouldn't just change it, but whatever he prefers.
Expected second installment of 13 Reasons Why Prey is better than whatever game I happen to be talking about.
Instant movie / show reference. I don't know, I've never seen 13 Reasons Why.
This started with Alien Isolation when I was playing that game and I was reminded of all the things that Prey did better. I had a lot of fun with that video, and it's probably my favorite comment section. I love all the variations of...
Well, here's why that video worked. Probably, I haven't seen it. It's because you compared two games that were the same genre, survival horror, and then sci-fi horror, which is comparable. It's fine. It works. But here he's comparing a first-person shooter. Well, okay, obviously both first-person shooters, but he is comparing a open-world RPG shooter to a survival horror shooter. Ooh, and he's comparing it to a game where you can choose your dialogue choices and a game where you have a silent protagonist. He's also comparing two different genres. Cyberpunk is a sci-fi action or a retro action or whatever. Retro punk, whatever you want to say. And Prey is a sci-fi horror set in the not-so-distant future, so that's a minus there.
These games aren't exactly the same, therefore you can't compare any mechanics they happen to share, even if Prey's implementation of those mechanics would objectively make Alien Isolation play better. That video caused a hilarious amount of irritation, so let's do it again. 13 reasons why Prey is better than Cyberpunk 207. Number 1, world variation. Cyberpunk truly has a beautiful art style.
Cyberpunk has a city. Prey has a space station. Space station is probably much smaller than a city.
That can't be denied. Where it falls flat for me is in its lack of variety. So many places share the same general look, leading to too much uniformity of appearance and a general sense of boredom. Prey's world is separated into different floors that all have a different theme. Psychotronics is incredibly technical, the front lobby is inviting and warm, the Arboretum is filled with lush plant life and interesting vertical exploration, and the zero-gravity guts tunnel is filled with this beautiful glowing orange algae. You always know where you are within seconds of looking around, and it keeps the exploration feeling fresh. Number 2, the inventory. Cyberpunk's inventory is pretty ugly.
Okay, and here's some spot where he's wrong or something. I don't know. The world mapping in both games is actually kind of similar. If you enter through any way in Prey, I don't have anywhere to show this because, well, recording on mobile, but if you enter through any way, it's always kind of the same static hallway with a couple of objects to make you wonder about the environment in Prey. Wonder what it's like for Cyberpunk. I haven't played it yet. Number 2, he's going to go on a rant about the inventory system and how they're, useless in Cyberpunk or whatever. He doesn't consider the fact that, I don't know, we'll just see as we go on.
Unpleasant colors and stuff all over the screen with a color contrast that burns out your retinas. Prey's inventory screen is nice and clean. Color coding blue for weapons, green for consumables, gray for junk. A nice visual aid for selecting things quickly. Since Prey has single weapons that are then upgraded by...
That's why Cyberpunk has different categories in its inventory, so you can go to the category and select the item that you want from that category.
Investing in their stats. Having duplicates of weapons isn't a big deal because you immediately recognize that a gun can be discarded or recycled for crafting materials. Instead of this, 1,000 guns with all these different stats and rarities, so many duplicates, all this looter-shooter
You are over-encumbered and cannot run.
nonsense. Cyberpunk would have been better with a set arsenal, maybe a couple different variations of each type of weapon, and then a large customization system. None of this rarity hunting, stat chasing crap, with duplicates of weapons taking up your inventory because
Keep the same weapons, mark them as favorite, and loot after the battle.
you're trying to pick things up quickly in a firefight, and
Also, remember stats.
items don't have a clear visual look, just an indicator, so you don't even know what you're filling your inventory with. Why isn't there a system like Prey, where if you approach a duplicate weapon, you're given the choice to take only the ammo or take the gun too? Number 3, the
Because there are different design choices in Prey and Cyberpunk, and they both have their individual choices unique to that game.
characters. Prey's characters all have unique personalities, and their dialogue is delivered by actors that actually sound like they care and can display a range of emotion, compared to Cyberpunk's dull and depressed, super serious characters that commonly feel like parodies. Prey also has a cute robot friend that
Because the game was shoved out the door because people kept demanding it, so it's not entirely CD Projekt Red's fault. So you can't judge the game because it was shoved out the door. That's what I'm gonna say. And he's comparing the two because why? I don't know.
interacts with you and acts as your guide. How does Cyberpunk's massive city not have androids walking the streets, or drones flying around marketing products, or robot animals as pets? I know there are some characters and missions that are android-like, but how is there not a junk food or hot dog franchise around town run by robot cashiers? Some futuristic society. Number 4, the shooting.
Maybe it's because certain futuristic societies like take whatever iRobot, I want to say. Maybe it's because some futuristic societies don't want to depend on AI and don't want to, have stuff actually built and run by AI because the AI will eventually become self-aware and revolt. Well, I guess iRobot isn't the best example of that, but still, movie that shows it and shows it in a good way. Also, the Claptrap's Revolution DLC for Borderlands 1 kind of shows that. I can't think of anything else that shows it, but yeah, maybe it's because of that. And maybe because it's 2077. The AI around this time isn't that advanced. Only have a few pre-programmed faces. Only have a few pre-programmed things for situations if this and that matters. It's 2077, which is about 57 years into the future. AI, I don't think would get much better.
Good gun combat isn't just about guns being cool. They need to feel like they have an impact. Part of that is the physical response to firing a round. Part of it's
And then shows Titanfall 2 gameplay, a game that is completely unrelated to the topic at hand.
the sound design, and a big part is the reaction of the enemy. Cyberpunk does the bare minimum in all these areas. It doesn't feel that great to shoot enemies, just kinda normal. And most of the weapons are standard guns and grenades that you've seen in other games. There's a late game laser grenade with an underwhelming animation, and smart guns that track targets, but meh. Prey's weapons include the standard pistol, which is very effective, and the shotgun is epic and obliterates enemies at close range. Enemies blasting into particles, corrupted drones.
They look the most basic, like I've played Prey. They look like the most basic weapons. Silenced pistol, Q-beam, shotgun, glue gun, grenades. I can't even name them all because they just seem so basic to me. Prey's weapon variety is just very based and biased, and I don't really like it. I would have preferred if there was some, like, sort of BFG-like weapon that actually caught my attention. The Q-beam is like that, but you don't even have enough ammo for it to be efficient in combat against the bigger aliens. It just makes the fight against the Typhons seem like, oh, shotgun, pistol, glue gun, recycler, grenade, all that, just repeat, rinse, repeat. If you do choose, like, the alien powers, I guess it gets more interesting, but I never chose those. It just seems so static and so unoriginal and uninspired in Prey.
Crashing to the ground and exploding. And it's the future, right? So we have laser weapons, and the ultra-imaginative recycler charge that can be thrown at anything in the game, including low-health enemies, to turn things into resources that can be used as crafting materials. So you don't always just want to kill everything with guns. Maybe you want to lower their health and then recycle them. It's a cool option. And of course there's the incredible glue cannon, which freezes enemies in place, but can also be used to create paths and explore the world in creative ways. Speaking of exploration, number 5,
Okay, before he goes on about exploration, I just want to say this. Prey feels like a Half-Life game. It feels like a Half-Life game because you get obligatory melee weapon, obligatory physics gun that will help you in the environment, obligatory grenade-like weapons, obligatory pistol, obligatory shotgun, obligatory powerful weapon. It goes on and on and on. Obligatory utility weapon, which is the taser, whatever the fuck. It goes on and on and on. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel nice. It feels like I have to swap between these lazily done weapons that have these uninspired names: silenced pistol, shotgun, taser, glue gun, grenade, etc., etc. Plus, it's not even like you have a gun for a certain utility. Some grenades have a unique function that you can't get out of other weapons, like you could in, say, I don't know, a Half-Life game. Just seems so bland and uninspired and not good. I don't know. I like Prey's weapon variety. I'm not gonna lie with you. I do. All the weapons feel pretty powerful, and they have some impactful sounds, a good sound design, especially the silenced pistol reload sounds. Those are good. But all the guns in that game just feel like guns out of a Half-Life game. Like if you copy pasted the models and put them in like Half-Life Alyx, they would feel like exactly the same. Except for maybe the glue gun and some of the grenades, but that's the exceptions.
Night City is huge and impressive. No one can deny that. But the exploration is so dry. Sure, you can go anywhere, but it's not like you can really creatively explore. All the stores are closed or locked or staffed with vendors that won't serve you. You're not testing the
Again, the game is unfinished.
boundaries of the game by trying to scale large buildings or fit into hidden areas. It's all quest-based. Prey has so many little hidden areas that reward curiosity and imagination. Exploring the outside and finding a dead body with resources and a message. Using the glue cannon to get up to a crawl space and find a weapon and upgrade points. Learning a doctor's secret code and using it on his computer to open a secret door on the wall. It's so much fun. Side quests in Prey are much more rewarding because while they have interesting stories and characters to pay attention to, even if you're not into the story, there's always a tangible benefit that makes you feel good about completing a side quest. A pack of 4 neuromods to spend on upgrading in the skill tree, a new fabrication plan for crafting an item you could previously only find through exploring, a passcode to a room with a new weapon. There's a bunch of side quests that have keys to employee cabins, and when you finally find yourself in the crew quarters later in the game, you can just go wild looting all these people's cabins at once, and it feels awesome. Number 6, the introduction. Cyberpunk does very little to intrigue the player in the beginning. Lots of talking and talking, wandering around, until maybe an hour later when you get into a small gunfight. And even then, it'll be followed by hours of barely doing anything. Prey starts off simply in your apartment, getting ready.
Maybe it's because the tutorials are made to be rushed through, and they're just there to teach you the basics of the game.
For a day at work. You can read a few articles in your room if you want, and then you board a helicopter which takes you through a beautiful opening credit sequence. You're put through a
True about the opening credit sequence. Too bad it runs like shit.
tutorial section in a laboratory, but this is no ordinary tutorial. It's actually connected to the story. They're performing tests on you and asking you to do basic tasks like jump and move objects. But even though you're performing them correctly, the scientists seem to be puzzled by your actions, as if you were doing it wrong. You'll find out why later in the game, and it's actually a really smart way of incorporating a tutorial section into a game. Soon you'll enter the world and pick up the glue cannon and a melee weapon and start to explore. You can go straight to your office and start following the story, or explore at your leisure, finding items, engaging in combat, checking out the museum, and learning about the history of the world, all in the first 20 minutes of the game. Isn't that nice? Number 7, the AI. Prey's AI isn't the best, but it
Once again, unfinished game compared to game that was finished 4 years ago.
serviceable. The Mimic's AI is actually really cool since it can disguise itself as any small object and has a lot of mobility. They feel like living creatures. I knew it! I knew it! Larger enemies have simple but believable patterns, the most impressive being the etheric phantom who can split himself in two and teleport around. Cyberpunk's AI is, well, is there even AI in this game? Cars
Unfinished game.
don't have any AI, they just have set paths, and if there's even the slightest obstruction, they freeze in place with no idea what to do. How is this acceptable? Even in Grand Theft Auto 3, a stopped car would try to
Again, he's comparing this game to a game that is completely unrelated to the topic at hand, which is dumb. And I don't believe if I ever did a review of, like, say, Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal, I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't compare, say, fucking Cyberpunk or whatever to Doom. I would compare the two games as is, and that's that. There's nothing wrong about that. It's just that when you take other aspects from other games that are completely unrelated to the topic at hand, it just sounds sloppy and like you're grasping at thin air.
find a way around so it can continue forward. And that game is almost 20 years old. Enemy AI is generally stupid, as they just stand behind cover or out in the open waiting to get shot in the head. And the police AI is totally
It's almost like the game is unfinished.
busted. They just spawn in, and they have no driving AI.
They're the androids you're looking for. That police officer looked like an android. Wait, it's not like they use androids to take care of some very important jobs where they might be expendable. No, it's not like androids totally have families. It's not like androids, don't really feel emotion. It's not like they could lose a valuable asset and have to go through the despair of a family if they lose an android compared to losing an actual human officer. It totally couldn't be that.
Cops don't get in or out of cars. They don't even drive cars. There are no cop cars in this city. And if you kill a bunch of civilians
Unfinished game. End of story.
and cops, just drive around the corner and they'll forget about you in 10 seconds. The city is utterly empty as people just mindlessly walk around and there's no store vendors to interact
It's a city. What are they supposed to do? Not mindlessly walk around and constantly try to interact with you?
with. They just tell you to go away. How is it possible that the world of Prey, a world literally full of corpses, feels more alive than a city full of thousands of living people?
Because you're always in combat, and the combat music is always triggering for no reason. For some reason, when I was, say, exploring in Prey, just exploring the Arboretum, after I already had cleared it out or whatever, combat music started just randomly playing. Then I discovered that there was an enemy in an area that was locked to me that I couldn't get to, and I had to deal with the combat music playing all the time while I tried to search around the area. In Cyberpunk, it's probably not like that. You're in combat, combat music plays,
You'll never
etc.,
have a
etc.
character randomly do a T-pose on you in Prey either. Number 8, skill trees. Cyberpunk and Prey share similar RPG leveling systems through skill trees, spending your upgrade points to improve your character. Both games have ways to upgrade weapon damage, mobility, stealth options, hacking, health regeneration, crafting. They're quite similar in that way, but they're presented a bit differently. Prey has everything laid out in a simple vertical menu with your base upgrades listed down the left side, showing how each upgrade leads to more unlockable and branching upgrade options down the line. You start with 3 categories that neatly separate things into playstyles and priorities, and once you discover alien powers, you get another 3 skill trees to play with, offering abilities that can further complement your build or your sense of experimentation. Prey communicates information clearly and in a pleasant visual fashion.
Says pleasurable visual faction shows the cutscene where you stab a needle full of purple juice into your eye. Yeah, because that doesn't make me crawl in my skin every time I see that cutscene.
Cyberpunk just vomits everything at you in the beginning in this ugly clusterfuck of upgrades. Like 20 skills per subcategory with 2 to 3 subcategories to each main category, skills that are complementary to one playstyle but separated into multiple locked away categories requiring dozens of hours of grinding to even unlock the ability to spend your perk points on them. Some of the upgrades feel very incremental and leave you feeling underwhelmed by their effects and wishing you'd gotten something else instead. It's unpleasant to look at, tedious to unlock, and unsatisfying.
It's not like you unlock the Typhon powers later in the game. Oh wait, you do? What a shocker! And now you're saying that since you unlock certain skill trees but later in Cyberpunk 2077, that it's bad game design? That just doesn't make sense. You're saying that it's bad to unlock something later in Prey, but it's bad to unlock something later in Cyberpunk 2077. For what? Because Cyberpunk 2077 is a looter shooter? Because it's a retro FPS? Because it's Cyberpunk 2077? Because it's from CD Projekt Red? What is the reason?
Trying to interact with. And guess what? Prey, despite having a similar design to the skill tree system of Cyberpunk, doesn't lock away the ability to sprint and reload at the same time. You have it from the beginning. You don't have to play the game for 10 hours to be able to unlock basic mobility functions in combat. So let's stop defending the design to lock away reloading while sprinting by saying it's an RPG you're supposed to unlock.
So I guess the ability to toss 2 grenades at once when gun zerking in Borderlands 2 could be passed off as saying, "Oh, you should be able to do that as Salvador you should be able to do that as Salvador from the start, not actually have to unlock it." That's basically what you're saying. So I guess the skill to not reload at all in Fallout 4 should be unlocked instantly because your character is ex-military. Cool. I guess that makes sense.
Basic functionality in combat isn't something you lock away from your player, especially when things can kill you so easily, or if cops can just spawn in behind you. Number 9, narrative interactableness. Your ability to affect the world of Cyberpunk feels very limited. You can do things to affect relationships and the ending through
Unfinished game.
Doing side quests, and it's not that it's more limited than most games, but it's certainly not as interesting as Prey. In Prey, you can kill any character, even main characters. Your behavior affects the ending, but that's not really the point. It's how it affects the experience of the game. You spend most of the game in a back and forth with your brother, and when you finally meet him again, you can just shoot him if you want. The game will continue. The best example of this interactivity is January, the drone that has your voice and guides you along your missions. You meet January near the beginning of the game, and he or she, depending on your character choice, tells you about locations you're in, talks about missions and story points, through pretty much the whole game. But when you meet this thing, you can kill it immediately and play the entire game in silence. That's some great player choice right there. Number 10, special attacks. Prey's combat.
Okay, so let's say that you kill a character like Johnny from Cyberpunk, and he's essential to the story. We could just go, let's say that you go to a random safe house where you're supposed to get a call from Johnny saying, "Oh, the X faction is doing this in another room that's locked below you that you couldn't hear because it was soundproofed." And then let's just say that if you took out Johnny, your character would just suppose, maybe there's a hidden room, or maybe I should do what Johnny was supposed to tell me here. That's what I don't like about stuff like this. If you eliminate a character in Prey, you can just do the same because you pick up hints from the environment. In Cyberpunk, I don't think you could because, well, there's essential characters that have to tell you essential things about the story. It is not good game design for different games to do the same thing as other games that did it better. It is not. And that would just be blatant out stupid and lazy. That's why you can't kill any of the essential story NPCs in Cyberpunk 2077. And that's why you can kill some of the essential NPCs in, say, Prey. You can kill January. You'll pick up hints from the environment about where Alex is. Whatever. That's what I can say.
And stealth options really open up with the alien abilities. Psychic attacks that disable enemy powers. A kinetic blast that explodes the area, creating a double of yourself to distract enemies. Energy pillars that suck enemies up into the air. And of course, the famous ability to turn yourself into any object and sneak around. Cyberpunk could really benefit from some more outlandish abilities. I imagine throwing down some kind of equipment that opens up into a drone that flies around targeting enemies and you fight side by side. Calling an attack droid to come in. Creating holograms of yourself like in Total Recall. Some more fun stuff
Is this Borderlands or is this a totally different game?
like that would really make the game come alive. Number 11, item selection. Cyberpunk has a very awkward weapon selection interface where you hold a button and then highlight something you need, and then you have to press another button to cycle through which type you want to use. It's a really tedious way to choose a grenade type or one of the many types of healing items. And the button to open this menu isn't always responsive. Sometimes you have to stop what you're doing to be able to access it, which is terrible design for combat. Prey does this weapon wheel so much better. The moment you open it, you have quick keys for healing items. E for medkit, C for food items, Q for alien power recharge. Simple, and it doesn't interrupt combat. No scrolling or cycling needed either. Every weapon in your inventory is accessible through a quick swirl of the wheel, with every grenade type immediately visible and selectable. Prey even allows you to...
So Cyberpunk did some minor changes to the quick swap system, and you're like, game bad, me no like, me angry. So what the fuck? Prey does it better Prey does it with some minor mechanic fixes and maybe a bit better. But what about you having to cycle through all of your grenades instead of pressing a button to cycle through them in Prey? That could be taken as bad game design from me. What if you having to use a separate button on your controller or keyboard in order to use healing items? That could be taken as a bad design choice from me. It all depends on perspective. And, well, most of the things that you're saying in this video are taken from not a very good perspective, let me say. That most people would maybe disagree with. That's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that I'm disagreeing. Shit, that's not what I meant to put.
Assign a weapon or grenade to a key of your choice through the wheel, without having to go to the menu to rebind your keys. So user-friendly. They really put a lot of thought into making this game work. Number 12, space.
Really? Space?
Space is cool.
Yeah, space is pretty cool.
I'm going with space. Space is more awesome than cities. That's just a fact. Done. And number 13.
Space may be better, but you have to think, did they really have to limit themselves on like how much you could explore the Talos space station? They could have made it the size of goddamn, fucking Dubai, and then not have you be able to go out into space. But the thing about space is that they still restrict you in certain areas. There's that ring around the Talos space station that you can't go outside that boundary. And plus, when you first go into space, you're contacted by Dr. Igwe, and you have a choice whether to save him or kill him. So you don't really have enough time to explore. You sort of just you're in this frenzy of, oh, I've got to save this innocent person because they're telling me to help them. That's not how you would really do it. In Prey, if they actually did it pretty good, which they did, but Dr. Igwe thing was just shoved in there, in my opinion. They did it properly. You would go near Dr. Igwe's crate that he was trapped in, and he would contact you. Maybe saying something like, oh good, a signal, or oh thank God, someone's actually still out here. And then he would tell you what to do. That's what it would be good. You could explore before you went over to Dr. Igwe's crate.
Prey is cheaper. Cyberpunk is a lifeless, unfinished game riddled with bugs and performance problems, with terrible AI, substandard combat, ugly inventories and skill tree presentation, sloppy driving, boring characters, and arbitrary
I don't know how many times I have to say this. Cyberpunk is an unfinished game. It was shoved out the door by angry fans who wanted it right then and there, and CD Projekt Red gave it to them, except it wasn't finished, so they were angry at that. But CD Projekt Red told them, "We were releasing an unfinished game. Are you sure you want us to do this?" And the community said, "I don't care, give it to me right now." And that's why Cyberpunk 2077 turned out the way it is. I'm sure it's a great game with a story, but you just can't enjoy it when people shoved it out the door and made it full of bugs. That's not how you do good studio and game design. If you wanted it to actually be good, they could have told them fans, "We're sorry for another delay." So they could have had more development time so they could actually work on the bugs that were cropping up. But they just had to listen to the community because, well, shoving it out the door is better than, giving us another delay. Either way, CD Projekt Red would have been called out for it, and they would have had to force an apology in order to seem like an actually good company. And that's not good, which is dumb.
dialogue choices. Don't pay full price for this game when you can get Prey for like half the price. It's a much more rewarding experience and a better value. And that's it. 13 reasons why Prey is better than Cyberpunk 27. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
No.